The choices that changed my life so. Where did it start? Come on. I tell you, the soft hum of the city never truly left Eleana Harper. Even as a child, the streets of New York had fascinated her. The lights, the noise, the endless movement. She remembered walking with her mother in the early mornings, the smell of fresh bread from the corner bakery mixing with the dampness of the sidewalk after rain. Her father's stern voice echoed in her memory too, reminding her of rules, discipline, and the quiet expectations that seemed to hang over their small apartment like invisible chains. Eleana grew up fast. She was the eldest of 3 siblings, responsible not just for herself but often for her younger brother and sister. Her parents worked long hours, her mother in a bustling hospital, her father at a law firm, and Eleana learned early that independence wasn't a choice, it was survival. She excelled in school, not for accolades, but because she wanted to prove to herself that she could carve her own path. Her notebooks were filled with dreams of a life bigger than her cramped apartment, bigger than the neighborhood she loved yet felt suffocated by. College was her first real escape. The campus was sprawling, filled with history and endless possibilities. Eleana felt alive for the first time, walking past towering buildings, old libraries, and the brick pathways that smelled faintly of rain and youth. It was there, under the shade of an oak tree that had stood for centuries, that she met James Harper. James was different, confident without arrogance, kind without weakness, and daring without recklessness. Their first encounter was simple, a shared bench during a particularly grueling economics class, but there was something electric in the air. He looked at her with eyes that seemed to see not just her presence, but the thoughts and dreams swirling behind her calm exterior. Over time, they became inseparable. Library nights turned into coffee mornings. Late walks through rain-soaked streets became conversations about life, love, and ambition. Eleana felt emotion she had never allowed herself to feel fully: joy, fear, excitement, and a longing for someone who could understand both her ambitions and her insecurities. James encouraged her, challenged her, and somehow made her feel that independence and love weren't mutually exclusive. Yet, the path of their young love wasn't smooth. Eleana's ambition pulled her in a different direction. Internships, scholarships, and relentless study schedules often meant missing dates, canceled plans, and unexplained absences. James, patient as he was, began to sense the distance growing between them. He never blamed her, never shouted, never forced her to choose. But Eleana could feel the quiet disappointment in his eyes, the small sighs, the subtle hesitation when he wanted to reach for her hand. It wasn't just James. College brought Eleana friends who would shape her understanding of loyalty, betrayal, and the fragility of human connection. There was Mara, whose vivacious energy could brighten any room, yet hid insecurities that only Eleana noticed. And Daniel, whose quiet brilliance masked a deep-seated envy, reminding Eleana that success often came with unseen costs. Through friendships that flourished and faltered, she learned that every choice, every word spoken, every opportunity taken or ignored, created ripples far beyond her immediate world. By her sophomore year, the tension between love and ambition reached its peak. James wanted more, time together, shared experiences, small acts that meant the world. Eleana wanted more too, but it wasn't him she needed to save or nurture. It was her future, her dreams, her career. Nights spent in solitude, staring at textbooks and spreadsheets, made her question everything. She loved James, yet she feared that love might consume her entirely, leaving no room for the person she was still becoming. It was on a rainy evening, much like the one she now remembered, that Eleana made the choice she would carry for years. James had planned a small dinner, nothing extravagant, just a quiet moment to reconnect. She hesitated at the doorway, her heart torn. She wanted to stay, to hold on, to let love in fully, but ambition whispered louder. A scholarship opportunity abroad had arrived unexpectedly, a chance to prove herself on a scale she had never dreamed of. She looked back at James, at the eyes that mirrored both hope and hurt, and whispered, "I can't, not yet." James understood, even if his heart broke. He nodded, silent tears glistening as the rain outside mirrored the storm within. Eleana left, boarding a bus that would take her to her new life, carrying both dreams and guilt in equal measure. It was the first of many choices that would define her life. The choice to protect her ambition over her heart, the choice to distance herself from love in order to preserve independence. Even as she stepped into her future, she never forgot James, the warmth of his presence, the depth of his understanding, and the quiet ache of what could have been. Every decision she made afterward, every sacrifice, every success, and every lonely night carried the shadow of that moment. And it was a shadow she would carry, knowingly or not, for decades to come. The rain-soaked campus seemed quieter than usual, the brick pathways glistening under the soft morning light. Eleana Harper walked briskly, her bag slung over one shoulder, mind tangled in the events of the past week. College life had become a delicate balancing act. Lectures, late-night assignments, part-time internships, and her relationship with James, which was beginning to show the subtle cracks she had feared but never fully acknowledged. Her friendship with Mara had grown more complex over the months. Mara, bright and vivacious, always knew how to bring laughter into Ileana's world, but there were moments when her energy felt overwhelming. They had spent countless nights talking about dreams, ambitions, and fears. Yet behind Mara's laughter, Ileana sensed insecurities Mara refused to confront. She noticed the way Mara's eyes would linger on Daniel, the quiet, brilliant student whose envy of Ileana's intelligence was no secret. Mara and Daniel seemed to orbit around her, sometimes allies, sometimes silent rivals, forcing Ileana to navigate the complicated social dynamics of campus life. James had tried to remain patient, but she knew he was struggling. The long walks they used to take were now punctuated by pauses, the silence heavy with unsaid words. There were nights when he would call, only for Ileana to be buried under papers and deadlines. He never complained openly, but she could hear the disappointment behind his soft tone. It was as if the love they shared, once so effortless, had been tested by the realities of ambition and responsibility. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day filled with back-to-back lectures and a grueling economics seminar, Eleana found herself at their favorite spot, a secluded bench near the oak tree where they had first met. James was already there, his coat damp from the drizzle, eyes searching for hers. "You're late," he said softly, not accusatory, but his voice carried the weight of longing. I had work," she replied, her words falling short of the emotion she felt but couldn't express. He nodded, silent for a moment, then finally spoke. "Eleana, I know you're ambitious. I admire that. But sometimes I feel like I'm losing you, not because you want to leave me, but because you've built walls around yourself. And I don't know how to reach you anymore." Her chest tightened. She wanted to tell him that it wasn't him. It was the fear inside her, the need to succeed before she let anyone in completely. But the words didn't come. Instead, she simply nodded, letting the silence speak what she couldn't. The weeks that followed were filled with small tensions, minor arguments that seemed to erupt from nowhere. Mara confided in Eleana about her feelings for Daniel, seeking advice while unintentionally revealing her envy of Ileana's accomplishments. Daniel, on the other hand, had begun to subtly undermine her during group projects, questioning her ideas in meetings, forcing Eleana to defend herself repeatedly. The stress built silently, layering over her already heavy heart. Then came the scholarship offer, the opportunity she had been dreaming of since high school. It was everything she had worked for, a fully funded program abroad, mentorships with leading economists, and a chance to establish herself on a global scale. When the offer arrived, she felt elation, fear, and guilt all at once. James had always encouraged her ambitions, yet she could see the shadow in his eyes, the unspoken realization that this might pull them apart. The night she received the formal acceptance letter, she met James for dinner. The small restaurant was nearly empty, rain pattering softly against the windows. She reached across the table, taking his hand in hers, trying to convey the depth of her feelings without words. "James, this opportunity, it's everything I've dreamed of," she whispered. He nodded, squeezing her hand gently. "I know, and I want you to take it. I've always wanted you to succeed." But his voice faltered, a rare crack in his calm demeanor. "I can't pretend this won't change us. Distance isn't easy. And I don't want to lose what we have." Eleana felt tears prick her eyes. I don't want to lose us either. But I don't know how to stay and grow at the same time. I feel like I have to choose. That night, under the soft glow of the streetlights, Ileana realized the cruel truth of adulthood. Life demanded choices, and choices demanded sacrifice. She loved James more than she had ever admitted even to herself. But she knew that to achieve her dreams, she had to let go of something equally precious. The decision tore through her like a storm, leaving no corner of her heart untouched. The following weeks were bittersweet. They spent time together, savoring moments that now felt fleeting. They walked in the rain, shared late-night coffees, and whispered dreams under the oak tree. Yet, every laugh, every touch, carried the weight of impending separation. Friends noticed the change too. Mara, supportive yet perceptive, could see the strain in Ileana's eyes. Daniel, ever the observer, seemed to sense a shift as well, though he remained silent, letting the tension simmer. Finally, the day came when Ileana had to leave for her program abroad. The airport was crowded, a dull roar of announcements and rolling suitcases. She stood beside James, holding his hands, memorizing the lines of his face. "I'll come back," she promised, though even she wondered if promises could survive the distance and the passage of time. James nodded, fighting back tears, his lips pressed tightly together. "I'll wait," he said, though both of them knew the fragility of such words. They embraced, long and tight, as if willing their hearts to remain connected despite the miles that would soon separate them. As she boarded the plane, Ileana looked out at the city shrinking beneath her. She carried with her the weight of ambition, the ache of love postponed, and the knowledge that the choices she made from this moment on would shape not only her future, but the lives of those she left behind. College had been a place of growth, discovery, and heartbreak, a testing ground for the decisions that would define her life. Through it all, one thing remained unchanged. The memory of James, the boy who had seen her fully and loved her anyway, the first love she had not been ready to fight for. And though the future was uncertain, Eleana Harper stepped forward, ready to embrace the opportunities that awaited, knowing that every choice carried both loss and possibility. The plane touched down in London under a grey sky, the city vast, unfamiliar, and full of possibilities. Eleana Harper stepped onto foreign soil with a heart heavy yet determined. Every decision she had made, the scholarship, the sacrifices, leaving James, was weighing on her like invisible chains. She told herself it was for her future, her dreams, the career she had fought so hard to build. But as she walked through the bustling streets, the memories of New York, of James, of their love, clung stubbornly to her mind. The first weeks were overwhelming. Classes, mentorships, networking events, and relentless assignments left her exhausted, but she thrived in the chaos. Professors noticed her intelligence, peers admired her determination, and doors that had once seemed locked swung open. Yet, no matter the accolades or the recognition, a part of her remained achingly empty. James's absence was a silent echo that no amount of success could fill. She wrote to him sporadically, short letters, careful to maintain composure. His responses, warm but restrained, reminded her that distance stretched not only miles but the heart itself. Life abroad was not without challenges. Cultural differences, homesickness, and the relentless pace of a competitive environment tested her resilience. She learned to navigate boardrooms filled with skeptical executives, to negotiate projects with authority, and to present ideas with confidence. Each success was a victory, yet each victory was tempered by a whisper of doubt. Had she chosen the right path? Could love and ambition ever coexist? Meanwhile, back in New York, James's life had changed too. He had tried to focus on his own career, immersing himself in work and social commitments. Yet the absence of Ileana left a void that no distraction could fill. Friends noticed his melancholy, the way he lingered on memories, the subtle longing in his eyes whenever her name was mentioned. The bond they shared, once effortless, was now stretched thin by time, distance, and unspoken questions. Months passed. Ileana became more independent, more confident, but also more guarded. She formed friendships with classmates, mentors, and colleagues, but the intimacy she had shared with James remained unmatched. It was during a conference in Berlin that she met Ethan, a colleague with a calm intensity and perceptive eyes. Unlike the others, he seemed to understand the subtle struggle she carried beneath the polished exterior. Conversations with him revealed not only professional insights but also reflections on life, choices, and consequences. He became a mirror, showing her the impact of decisions she had long buried, including the pain caused by leaving James. Despite the distance, Eleana could not fully escape the past. One rainy evening, while scrolling through her phone, she received a cryptic message: "Meet me where it all began." Her heart raced. Memories of the old college campus, of James, of moments that had shaped her, came flooding back. The message carried the weight of inevitability. She knew that some truths could not be avoided forever. Returning to New York, she found the campus quieter than she remembered, the rain leaving the brick paths slick and reflective. James was there, waiting, as if time itself had bent to reunite them. His eyes, familiar yet marked by distance, met hers with a mixture of hope and apprehension. "Eleana," he said softly, "it's been too long." Tears filled her eyes as they embraced. The years apart, the choices made, the ambitions pursued, all led to this moment. Words poured between them, unspoken regrets, confessions of longing, and admissions of pain. Eleana revealed her struggles abroad, her doubts, and the loneliness of success. James shared his own struggles, the emptiness of absence, and the enduring love he had carried despite distance. Ethan appeared quietly, observing the reunion without interference. It was he who revealed certain hidden truths, decisions Eleana had made that had unknowingly impacted others' lives, including his own. The revelations were painful but clarifying, forcing Eleana to confront the ripple effects of her actions. For the first time, she saw her life not as a series of isolated choices, but as a web of consequences, connections, and responsibilities. Through the night, they walked the rain-soaked campus, speaking honestly, vulnerably. The tension between ambition and love, past and present, finally began to ease. Eleana understood that life was not about perfect choices, but about facing consequences and learning from them. She realized that forgiveness, of herself and of others, was the key to moving forward. Weeks later, Eleana returned to her apartment in New York, the skyline now bathed in golden sunlight. She picked up her phone and dialed James. "Let's start fresh," she said, voice steady, hope threading through every word. "Yes," he replied warmly. "We've got one life. Let's make it count." The weeks that followed were filled with small acts of rebuilding, shared breakfasts, walks in Central Park, quiet evenings discussing dreams, regrets, and plans. Mara and Daniel remained part of her life, friendships mended, lessons learned. Ethan, though a catalyst for revelation, stepped back, leaving Eleana and James to navigate their renewed connection. Eleana finally allowed herself to breathe. The choices that had once haunted her, the sacrifices for ambition, the distance from James, the relentless pursuit of independence, were no longer burdens. They were lessons, guiding her toward understanding, resilience, and the courage to embrace life fully. Sitting by her apartment window one evening, watching the city lights shimmer like a river of stars, Eleana Harper smiled. She had faced her past, confronted her regrets, and reclaimed her future. Life had tested her, challenged her, and shaped her in ways she had never imagined. But it had also given her the chance to love, to forgive, and to begin anew. And for Eleana Harper, the chapter that once seemed closed was now a story of possibility, hope, and enduring love. Every choice, every sacrifice, every heartache had led her here, to a life not without challenges, but filled with meaning, connection, and the promise of tomorrow.